Welcome to Game of Books with Cathi in South Dakota.
That's me, and Christy in South Florida.
That's me. We're two newbie writers sharing our take on wine, food, and mystery books.
And the authors who write them. Join us for the fun. Welcome, everyone, to Episode 7 of our Killer Season 2. Time seems to be flying by, no matter how much you want it to slow down.
I know. That's why I am so glad, Cathi, that we're taking this time to sit back with a glass of wine and talk about one of our favorite books and authors.
I know, I feel like we say that all the time, but I did really love The Last Widow by Karin Slaughter.
I know. Her books, they're really, really fast-paced, and they're so tightly woven, that I end up binging them every time. I just can't stop, and this book was no exception.
I think we mentioned this when we were talking with Lisa Unger a couple episodes ago,
yeah.
But we had the pleasure of seeing Karin Slaughter at Thriller Fest interviewing Lisa Unger, and she's so funny. She's so funny in person. She's a really dry, great wit. But if you have a second, check out her social media. It's pretty great. Her I follow her on her Instagram, and when she's kind of started this thing where when she gets a number one book in a particular country, she does a little dance, like a little celebratory dance. And it's pretty great.
Well, maybe one day we could get her on Corks and Conversation. That would be really cool, wouldn't it?
I would love to talk with her.
We're always dreaming,
really Yep, that's right. Okay, but for now, what do you say we twist open this bottle?
Okay.
Of our wine. So today, you gonna do that?
Yeah, I'm a step ahead of you. I'm about to take a sip. You can tell me about the wine, though.
Well, okay, I will tell you about the wine, but I also do want to say we have kind of a surprise about the food. So that will be coming up also. So just hold on.
Can't wait for that.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. Okay, but for the wine, we are enjoying today Jam Jar, which is just a really cool label. And it is a sweet Shiraz, or Syrah.
It is. It is sweet. I just took a sip, and it is sweet, yeah.
It is. And so let me just explain. I chose for our book club meeting to have pecan pie, kind of a southern dessert bar and featuring pecan pie. And I'll tell you why, because right away in Karin's book, that is what's being served in just one of the opening scenes. And they're having their southern meal is, listen to this, it's crazy, cornbread, biscuits, field peas, black-eyed peas, sweet potato souffle, chocolate cake, pecan pie, and ice cream thick enough to break a spoon.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, well, clearly we're having a dessert bar here. So,
right.
Yeah, so I thought pecan pie would be perfect, right, with the holidays coming up. And so I started doing some searching on what wine you can pair with pecan pie. And I found, it was interesting, I found an article from tastingtable.com, and they suggest with pecan pie that you actually go sweeter. Because I was thinking pecan pie is really, really sweet. And so I was trying to think of what, but they actually suggested the Jam Jar Sweet Syrah because a sweeter red works well with a rich, nutty pecan pie. So
interesting.
Let's take a taste.
Yes. Well, I do. I've already had a little taste. I'm sorry to say. You know what? It is sweet. It's Jam Jar makes sense because it's so fruity. I mean, it's really
very fruity. Yeah, and so the tasting notes say it's a fun style, more fun than your typical Syrah. This fresh, fruity, sweet, semi-sweet wine displays aromas and flavors of ripe, juicy berries with dark chocolate undertones. What do you think? Can you? I definitely get the berry.
Yeah, I definitely get the berries. And I do, you know what, because I'm not normally like a sweet wine, but this is sweet, but it's not, it's still got the little bit of a red wine, so maybe that's the dark chocolate coming through or something, you know?
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be like my go-to. I mean, it's very sweet.
Right. But it's what we got today, man. So I'm drinking it.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't dislike it. I mean, but it's not. It's really mild. Like when you first drink it, right? It's not that big, bold flavor that we often will go for.
It reminds me of like a after dinner wine, which I guess like a port or something. It's kind of sweet, but anyway, we can deal with it.
Yes. So now for the surprise. This is kind of great.
Okay.
But we're going to be talking with, ready? Talking with Kris and Wesley from How to Feed a Loon. They have this two guys. They've been together for a long time, cooking together for a long time. And they now have this great cooking website and a YouTube page. And they have all kinds of recipes and videos to go along with them. I mean, they do all kinds of cuisine.
Oh, great.
But they do a great pecan pie. And so I thought maybe they'll talk to us about it. And so they are going to talk to us. So Are you ready? Let's give them a call. Yeah.
Okay. Hello?
Hello?
Kris, Wesley?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Christy.
And Cathi.
Hi, Christy and Cathi.
Thanks so much for talking with us today.
Of course. Well, thanks for wanting to talk to us. We're so happy that you reached out to us.
Well, we're big fans of your site and your videos, and we're just really excited to be talking to you today about your pecan pie recipe.
That's awesome. Well, we're big fans of you guys too, and like I said, when you first reached out to us, and we really enjoyed your podcast so much, and think it's like really innovative, and like you said, it's kind of, you guys have the same style that we do, is that you like to share some fun information that people like to hear, but also you have fun while you're doing it too, and that's what we love.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We love to do this every week, and we love your recipes. And I have a question just to start out, because I think I say pecan weird.
I don't think you say pecan weird at all. I think you should embrace the way you say it. This is Wesley. I grew up in the Midwest, in a small town in South Dakota, and I always said pecan.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
Yeah, Wesley grew up about 2 hours from me. Wesley, I'm in Brookings, and I say pecan also.
Oh,
yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No. See, but you just said pecan, and I say pecan. So, see what I'm saying? I looked at a YouTube video today about it, and there's 3 different ways, and I guess everybody interchanges it too. So I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to communicate? I don't know.
I think we can make it through. Yeah.
Well, I always called it, I grew up obviously in Texas, and we called it pecan. But then when we lived up in New York for 30 years, up there they call it pecan. Yeah, they're ridiculous. New Yorkers are ridiculous.
Yeah, that we can't accept that. That's the one we just can't accept. Okay. All right. So you guys, what I love is that your premise, I stalked your website pretty deep, and I love that your premise is that you do really delicious food and you want to have a ton of fun doing it. And I just want to know how you started taking this out of your kitchen, or at least recording all of this. Like, how'd you guys get started?
Well, that's, I think, sort of our premise in life. If you're going to do something, why not have a good time doing it? Do it out loud and proud. Make it fun, whenever possible. So, I'll just jump in here, because I started the food blog about 6 years ago. No, I think it's almost exactly 6 years ago. And I've grown up in a family that likes to cook and loves eating. Being from Texas, there's steak and beef and
brisket
Tex-Mex and all that. Yeah, so brisket and all that good stuff. Yeah. It's not so good for you, but it's good. Anyway, so eating was always something that I enjoyed to do, and I started cooking. And both my parents were and still are good cooks. So I started cooking when I was in college, and then just continued to do it. And I was never afraid to go in there in the kitchen and cook something. And Wesley obviously loved to eat my food. I don't mean obviously, hence the name of the blog. But we've been together for 30 years, so I've cooked a lot of meals for him, and he's cooked one or two for me. But so Kris actually, he made this salad. It was a grilled shrimp and black bean salad one day, and decided to just take a picture of it. And he took a picture, and all of a sudden, all these people on Facebook were like, "Why don't you start a food blog?" And
Well,
it was one of those things. It was just like, on Facebook, sometimes you get like that immediate gratification, where like everyone was like, "Oh my God, that looks amazing!" I want the recipe. So then I posted another something else a little later, like the next week, and got the same reaction. So it got me thinking, well, maybe I'll start a food blog just for the fun of it. And so he started, coming up with recipes, and then I started to learn how to take pictures to get better photography.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it really did just start out as a hobby for myself. And I think another thing that, I don't know, seemed to get people's attention was the name was kind of unusual. And then when they found out what it meant, they got the humor.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've learned people love good food, and they love some humor. And so that was the long way of telling you.
Well, it sounds right up our alley, because we do love food and we do love humor. So there you go.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are that way. I mean, we get some people say, okay, get to the point, and we've kind of refined our style a little bit over the years, because they're, a lot of people, they do. They find us because they're looking for a recipe for something.
Mm-hmm.
And then they enjoy our banter and us just being ourselves. But a lot of times you're like, I love you guys, but can you get to the point a little quicker? We've tried to find the right medium.
So you have those special YouTube subscribers that like to comment saying, start at minute 25 to get to the recipe.
Well, when Cathi and I get a little long-winded, we just tell our sound editor to cut some of it out.
Perfect. We've done that too, and I'm the sound editor.
So basically, it just evolved into something that became more than a hobby, and now it's a full-time business for us, and it's thriving, but you never know. One day could, I don't know. We feel like we knock on wood every day.
We have to stay
current,
stay relevant.
Right.
Yeah.
Current,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
current on things like technical things like search engine optimization and editing and social media and all of that stuff, because there's a lot of other people out there doing similar things to what we're doing, but no one's quite like Kris.
That's right.
Right. Nobody's like you guys. Exactly. You're right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your pecan pie recipe? Because we're going to use it for our book club idea.
I love it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That I can tell. Well, it's Wesley's favorite pie in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
I love it too, but he'll I will search it out. One of the things that I really try to convey to our readers is that, something like a pecan pie is not difficult to make. It's a few simple ingredients, and going with quality is always best. And there's a few tricks. There's an ingredient called Lyle's syrup that I discovered a while back. I can't even remember how someone told me about it, and it's a British ingredient, but it's very easy to find here in the States. I found it up in New York and New Jersey, and it's here in Texas. It's in most supermarkets near like the syrups and and
it's called Lyle's Golden Syrup.
Yeah, and it's cane sugar syrup, and it has this kind of this amber taste that I just think is so great in pie. So I started using it, and I use a combination of dark corn syrup as well as light, and then some of this Lyle's. Now, obviously, if you can't get the lyle. I mean, it's very similar to corn syrup. So if you can't find the lyles, you can just increase the quantity of your corn syrups, and it's still going to be delicious. But I think little tricks of like, toasting your pecans, it just really brings out, it just deepens the flavor. And that's a trick that a lot of people do, but I mean, I find that it really does make a difference.
And your homemade crust.
The homemade crust. I mean,
That's the hard part to me.
well,
Wait a minute, though. You need to check out Chris's. It's easy.
I have a version that I do. I mean, I've done lots of different types. I've done the kind, where you really use the heel of your hand to really work you can't overwork it, but, get the flour and the butter to just, sort of come together as a dough and end up. But what I do, and I make pies constantly, especially this time of the year, is I just use my food processor. And, it's great. I chill the butter, and then I cube it, and I get a little bit of shortening that I do the same thing for. And because the butter, it's really important that the fat is cold. And then I just get my food processor. I put the flour in there, and then a little bit of salt, and then you add the butter, that cold fat, and then you just pulse it until it becomes kind of like little pea-shaped, butter that's. And then just very careful, just anywhere from 4 to 6 tablespoons of water are added, and you're just continuing to pulse just until a ball forms, and it makes just the perfect, most amazing pie crust.
Now, do you have a video of that on your website?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good. Okay, so I'm doing this whole thing. I'm going to do the crust
I am too.
and the pecan pie for my Thanksgiving, and
Yay!
I'm definitely going to do it.
I am too.
And what other recipe on your site do you think is like your number one Thanksgiving requested recipe?
What's actually really funny is during the holidays, we see a giant uptick on our cheese ball.
Oh, really?
We did a cheese ball. It's probably an early recipe that we did years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. And I mean, Google loves it. We rank like way up at the top. Like I think we're number one if you do classic cheese ball.
Oh,
and
my
so,
God.
I mean, we have other recipes that rank really well too. But during the holidays, it just skyrockets. It's incredible. I'm always like, how many people are searching for cheese ball? But I guess there's lots of people like a good old classic cheese ball during Thanksgiving.
I am having a completely out of body, like Saturday Night Live, sweaty balls image right now going on.
Yeah, they should be Kris and Wesley's cheese balls. They're cute.
I bet they're gorgeous.
But I love Thanksgiving so much, and so I try to. I think I got most of the classic side dishes and turkey recipes on there. There's the one that we just made. Yeah, we're knee deep in doing it. We're at that point where we're going back and revisiting a lot of our recipes, and then we're updating them because not all of them. We do everything that we do now. We always include a video. So some of the older ones, and Wesley just continues to get better and better with his photography. So it's fun. It's good for SEO too, for us to go back and kind of spruce them up a little bit. So we've been knee deep in Thanksgiving, but we have a recipe that's we're republishing it tomorrow. It's called my gourmet green bean casserole. It's like your classic green bean casserole, but instead of using condensed canned soup, we actually make a mushroom sauce that goes on top, and we fry it a little. Instead of using the boxed fried onions, we make our own little fried onions,
and then fresh green beans, and some nutmeg thrown in there. It's so good.
It sounds lovely.
I was just gonna say, I was watching the roasted butternut squash soup the other night with the homemade croutons.
Yeah,
I want to serve that on Thanksgiving. We don't have a soup very often in our Thanksgiving meal, and I would love to have that. I think
that's perfect. I think that's a great idea,
and I think we're going to do that too. We moved back to Texas last summer, and so my family loves it for a multitude of reasons, but mostly I think because they can come over and eat. We cook for them. Yeah, Thanksgiving there's so much food, and so it's the one time I don't do a lot of like appetizers and things, but that soup is perfect because it's it's not heavy. It doesn't have heavy cream in it. It's just really, really delicious. And it is the perfect kind of lead into a good Thanksgiving feast. It's delicious.
I feel like, you do all this work for Thanksgiving and we're gathered. And as much as I try to slow it down, it turns into such but the meal goes by so fast. And so I thought if we had just a soup kind of portion of the meal, it might really slow it down. So either that or my family will kill me.
Yeah, that's great. No, but you're right. Thanksgiving just kind of like flies by. The day does.
All right. Well, Wesley and Kris, thank you so much. And we're going to direct everybody, all of our listeners, to your fabulous recipes on your site. And they can watch it on YouTube, obviously.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys.
Sure, and such a pleasure. Had a wonderful time with you guys.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Okay,
Right.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, Christy, I loved our conversation with Kris and Wesley.
I know. It was you had such a great idea to talk to them after finding the recipe on how to feed a loon. I got to say, I'm a fan now, and I'll be looking to their site for recipes in the future.
Oh, yeah. I just printed out their fajita recipe last night. I'm making it tonight, actually. But I'll put a link on our website so all our mysterious foodies can do the same. They really have a depth of recipes that are just great to look through.
That's great. So now let's talk about The Last Widow by Karin Slaughter.
Oh, what a good thriller.
I know. Another all-night read for me. And I got to tell you, though, it's going to be hard to talk about this without giving too much away.
We will not give out any spoilers. We're going to be really, really careful about that. But I agree with you.
Right.
It's going to be hard. Kind of talking about it, not through
Well,
it
first
here.
I'll just start out talking about Karin Slaughter. And she has published in 37 languages with more than 35 million copies sold across the globe.
Man.
She has 19 novels, which include the Grant County and Will Trent books, as well as the Edgar-nominated Cop Town and the instant New York Times best-selling novels Pretty Girls and The Good Daughter. And her most recent novel, which we're talking about today, The Last Widow, features Sarah Linton and Will Trent. She's a native of Georgia, Karin is, and she lives in Atlanta. And her novels Cop Town, The Good Daughter, and Pieces of Her are all in development for film and television. So awesome.
Oh yeah, I would subscribe to that channel. whatever format they come in. I would love to see them. Yeah.
And so this book, like I said, it is, oh my gosh. I can just say that once you've read it, since we don't want to give spoilers here, but at your book club, you can talk about it because everybody supposedly has read it when they show up to book club. You will not be short of conversation because, it starts out, with a mysterious kidnapping. And so there you got talking about kidnappings. There's 2 kidnappings in the first 2 chapters. So you get to, you can talk about that. And the first kidnapping victim is a scientist from the Center for Disease Control. So you can just imagine where that one's going to go. I mean, could be a pandemic, could be, you don't know, but I'm telling you, you will have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then there's an explosion, right in the busy part of Atlanta where Emory University is, 2 major hospitals, the FBI headquarters, and the CDC. So then there's what's going on there. So they're following all kinds of things like that. They've got all these, and then the medical examiner, Sarah Linton, is one of the main characters, and her partner, Will Trent, he's the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation investigator. They get involved because they happen to be right there when the explosions happen, and then Sarah gets abducted. She's one of the 2 kidnappings that I was talking about. So, he's got to try to save his love and save the country, and there's just
and didn't you think the kind of subplot about their relationship was really layered really well?
Yes.
I mean, I just thought I thought that was really fun too.
Yeah, she is really good at character character development too, which is understandable, because if you're going to be that successful, you've got to have some really good characters and a way to
19.
So
she is really a force. I mean, I think Karin Slaughter is one of the top 5 thriller writers working right now. I mean, she's just a machine. She is, constantly putting out new works, and they're just, one is better than the next.
I know. And it's so involved. And like, if you go on her website, honestly, she has, and she even says, spoiler alert, but you can click on a link and it will have the research behind this book. And it's a full page. It's like podcasts, websites, books that she, that all talk about the subject matters, because it goes into a lot of really current events. I think my nonfiction friends that only like nonfiction would enjoy reading something like this too, because it feels like it's so current and real, Yeah,
it kind of, the way it opens, and it's just down to the minute, and it's different points of view. It kind of feels almost like a newsreel. Don't you think those first opening chapters when the explosions are happening, and it feels like it's literally ripped from the headlines.
And you know what we should have done, because we were in Atlanta just a few weeks ago. We should have gone to like some of the sites because they were probably right close to where we were. We could have even gone, the CDC actually has a museum right there.
Oh, really?
We could have gone to the CDC museum, maybe gotten some ideas for our, our own, like,
I like a museum anyway. Yeah.
I know. We should have done that. I didn't research it ahead of time, so I should have, but next time. Yeah.
Writer's perspective. This week, we want to talk about pacing in our writer's perspective. It's something that's so important in all books, but really, really vital in thriller writing.
Yes, yeah. And like we were saying, Karin Slaughter, she's a master at it. So this is a great day for us to be talking about pacing. And also, like you said, in thrillers, it's really important to keep the readers turning the pages without getting bored by too much action or too much investigating or too much explaining, which is really hard to do, don't you think?
I do, because, one of the things I love, like we talked about with Karin's book, is that I love it when the writer goes deep into research and shares a new world that, you don't know anything about. But you also can't just bog the reader down with too much research, because it slows the pace down, and you really want that kind of heartbeat, page turning feeling. And so I think it's a real fine line to walk for writers who are trying to do that. Yeah.
There's a, like we had looked into it. There's a few like different elements that people kind of say to help with pacing. And I think when I look through them, they're like action, cliffhanger, dialogue, word choice. Like pacing seems like it's just, you just have to feel it almost. If you're doing everything else the best you can, it probably kind of flows. Like we know, don't talk too much about the research. I don't know. I guess I do automatically when I'm writing, I say, okay, I'm bored with this. Let's have some action going in my head. So that's when the action starts again. I don't know. I don't have any conscious. Do you have like a conscious like technique you use to keep yourself paced?
No. I did learn 2 things. I'm just not an experienced writer enough to kind of dig through my own experience. Right. But I will say when we were at Thriller Fest last summer, I took 2 different sessions that talked about pacing. And one of them, the writer whose name I will include, but I cannot remember who it is right now. He talked about the importance of hanging questions. With every chapter, you should be answering some questions that were already hanging, but then leaving new hanging questions. So the reader's always wanting. Yeah. And I thought that was a really good way to look at it. And then KJ Howe gave a presentation on pacing that was outstanding. And she had all kinds of techniques. Even things like when you're in the middle of your action sequence, what language to use when you want to slow it down, just to kind of not have it just fly by, so the reader can kind of really put themselves in that space.
Right.
Or if you do want to pick up the pace, just how she chooses her language. So it was really a great session.
Oh,
KJ
and so
Howe.
that was at Craft
Yeah.
Fest at Thriller Fest.
It was.
Which, yeah. I think I need that. I need a class like that because like I said, I don't really know the techniques. So I'm like, get lucky maybe sometimes, but sometimes you don't,
Yeah.
And by the way, KJ Howe, she was on our Corks and Conversation last week. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to her because obviously she knows her stuff.
Yeah. She does know her stuff, and she's got 2 thrillers out that we really should talk about one of our upcoming episodes because they're great.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Cathi, it's time for us to be accountable.
Dun dun dun.
Hey, guess what?
What?
It's November.
It is November, Christy. Talk to me about your November.
So by November is sort of NaNoWriMo month, and so I
is sort of.
So I had, okay, so we're only a few days into November when we're recording this, so I haven't fallen completely off the track, but I'm not on a pace, speaking of pacing, that is going to give me 50,000 words this month, unless, I don't know, one day I just go bananas and do 20,000 words or something. But,
oh my gosh.
I know, but I am really trying, and I've gotten back into my work in progress. So I am trying, and I'm making sure I'm writing every day, like 500 to 1,000 words, and fitting it in. Even though I got other things going on, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and I know from the past it's going to start. It snowballs a little bit because once you get into it and your mind starts thinking and thinking and thinking, then you can get a few more words down each day just because you're in the roll, you're on a roll, you're in the zone.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of myself for that. So there you go.
Good. So did you actually sign up at nanowrimo.org?
I did not.
Well, you still can.
I still can. And I may, because I'm trying to keep accountable. It's just, It's just, honestly, when November first hit, it was kind of a surprise. I've had so I was like, oh,
hello,
gosh.
it's here.
I know.
Yeah.
So I haven't gone back and done anything like sign up for anything yet. I'm just like, okay, well, at least I'm getting this done. So,
but I will say that you're back into your work in progress, which is far progress than you were at. So that's good. And even if you don't achieve the winning, I guess, of the 50,000 words that is suggested for NaNoWriMo, there's nothing wrong with big, giant goals and then coming closer than you were before.
Right.
I think that's a wonderful step forward.
Thank you.
Yes. So you're farther along than you were, and I'm very happy for you.
Oh, thank you. So how's it going up there besides the fact that you told me it was snowing today?
It is snowing. Actually, I record in a radio station, and I'm looking outside, and it's getting dark already towards the end of the afternoon, and it's snowing. I'm thinking, is it January or what is this month? But so things are good here. Before I came, the one thing I was doing is, so I had told you I was going to read my whole novel front to back because I was kind of up to that point editing and reworking some things and just skipping all over the place. And so now I got to read it all through sequentially and mostly out loud. And that was really helpful. Yeah, so now I'm going through and doing another edit. And some chapters need little work, I'll happily announce, but some need a lot. And so I went and made a editing checklist because, I like lists and I like to be organized. And so I thought, Christy would think I was nuts, but I needed a checklist. So for each chapter, I've got my checklist. So that's and
so I'm like, I'm picturing in my head, like, what is the editing checklist? Like, do you go through and say, check for adverbs or What does that mean?
That is on the list. That is on the list, actually. I don't think I brought it with me. I should have brought it with me.
Because that's how I found, like, each time it would be like, I'd have one really major flaw that I realized I was doing throughout. So I'd go through the whole thing for that.
Yeah.
And then I'd find something else. And then I'd go through the whole thing for the next thing.
One of the things I do remember I put at the top of the list is that I remember watching James Patterson's Masterclass. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
And he talks about, with every chapter, he said, you have to be there, you have to be there, you have to be in the scene, in the character's head. And I can hear him saying that. So that's kind of, so at the beginning of each chapter, I want to, remind myself to be there and remind myself what the goal of the chapter is, right? To keep things moving along and what the characters needs to get accomplished. And I'll have to look and send you the list. But anyway,
Okay, cool.
It's lengthy and it's a spreadsheet, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. Thanks.
So more editing. That's where I'm at. Well, I loved today's episode, and I think the wine is... I think it would be nice for desserts on Thanksgiving. It is sweet, and it's sweeter than what I would normally care for, but I think for a Thanksgiving dessert, I can see it being really nice.
Yes, I can too. And like I said, it's sort of like an after-dinner wine, but it's not going to be as strong as, say, like a port or something, So I'm enjoying it for tonight, and I will probably really enjoy it with a dessert at a book club.
Very nice. Very nice.
And so next week, don't forget, we've got part 2 of Thriller Fest, Corks and Conversations.
Yes, have a listen because the author lineup is great.
Yes.
Thanks to our mysterious foodies out there for listening and sharing. Check out our website, gameofbookspodcast.com, where you can find links to all we talk about. And if you subscribe to our weekly newsletter, you can get those links sent directly to you, along with any exciting updates. We are also on Facebook and Twitter under @GOBWriters.
And if you enjoyed this episode as much as we did, we would love to hear from you, and please subscribe to Game of Books wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss any of our book club ideas and Corks and Conversations with award-winning and best-selling authors.
That's all for today's episode of Game of Books Podcast, where we share food, wine, and mystery every Friday morning, just in time for the weekend.
This is Christy
and Cathi
saying thanks for listening.
Bye,
everybody.